Good morning, everyone, and welcome to a very, very special Primecast here at Privateer Press today. The Warcast, as it's being called, because today you're going to get your very first look at Warcaster, the new game coming up. But this is a Primecast like normal, so we're actually going to have several guests on. We're going to have a few different segments. You're going to get all kinds of cool news, and then we'll end with Warcaster. We'll save the best for last. Well, can't say the best for last because we do have Matt Getz here, and Matt Getz is the best. But for those of you watching, here's what we're going to do today. We're going to go through the new releases coming out this month and some of the cool news going on. Then we're going to have John Swinkles come on. And John, our con manager, is going to talk about upcoming events at both Lock and Load and Adepticon. Then we're going to have Jordan Lamb, our studio painter, come on. He's going to talk about some of the painting competitions we have coming up, go over the rules with you, and talk about some of the really fun prizes we have available. Then we're going to have Oz show up. And Oz has got some cool spoilers for Monster Apocalypse, including a look at a new map that's coming up he wants to show everyone. Afterwards, we're going to have Mike Ryan and Matt Getz is going to come on, and we're going to talk about the Hingehold Scrolls, sort of the process behind it, their favorite bits of fiction. We know the Hingehold Scrolls are getting more and more popular since they've started as a new way for people to keep up with the storyline of the Iron Kingdoms. And so they're going to give us a little bit of a behind-the-scenes look at that. And then after that segment, you're going to get your very first look at Warcaster. So let's just go ahead and get right into things and talk about sort of our streaming schedule we like to do here at Privateer Press. So if you've never joined us before, every Wednesday, we usually do a dev chat with Oz and I talking about the new rules, but we're having a special exception today to do this special Primecast because we've got so much cool stuff to show you. I will say that next dev chat, next Wednesday, is another Monster Apocalypse dev chat, and Oz has even more rad stuff to show everybody. Every Thursday is Get Your Paint On with Jordan Lamb, where Jordan goes through painting a new model and also talks hobby tips and tricks with all of you. These are live streamed on both Facebook and Twitch, so if you want to ask questions during the streams, we do highly encourage it, and we will answer as best we can. Jordan's also really good about answering any sort of, how do I do this technique, what color looks good. So if you are starting a new painting project, whether you're a beginner or an expert, we recommend watching. We have two semi-regular shows we do. Staff Showdown, which is where we get on and play the games we make. The next one is February 25th. And Tony, do you know what game we're going to be playing on that one?
It's going to be Warcaster.
We will be playing Warcaster live on the next Staff Showdown on the 25th. It will be Oz and I throwing down. So while you're going to get your first look at the game today, a full-on game of it, you'll watch Oz and I play on the 25th. Then the hobby hangout is Danny Samuels and Brian McLaughlin show, where they go through things like building terrain, converting models, and ways to clean and assemble your models. The next one of those is going to be on February 21st. Speaking of other things we just want to keep everyone in the loop about, we are taking subscriptions on Twitch. When you subscribe, you get a subscriber badge and special emojis, and the more subscribers we get, the more emojis we unlock. Once we get 120 subs, we will unlock the Riot Quest loot coin. Also, there's no ad viewing whenever you sub on Twitch, so it's a really good way to just watch the show nonstop. Want to go through the mini crates available? Mini crate is our monthly miniature subscription service. So the main one I want to point out to everyone is the Medusionia on the main War Machine Hordes mini crate line. Today is the last day to get her. This is an alternate Absolonia 1. So if you're looking to pick her up, I recommend you go to mini-crate.com and sign up today. This is also the last day for the Trancer Dancer VIP model. So if you do a 6-month sub, you will still get the Trancer Dancer. The VIP and Medusionia are both going to change tomorrow, and I believe we'll be showing what's available on the stream tomorrow. Over on the Legend of the Five Rings, Bayushi Kyo is the new model available, and just a fantastic RPG model, or if you're a fan of Legend of the Five Rings, or you just like really great looking models. Tengu Sensei is still the VIP model, and that's going to be available for a little bit longer. Over on the Savage mini crate, the works of Robert E. Howard, Valyria is available as the current model. And Red Sonja if you do a VIP. So if you missed Conan, he was last month. We're sorry, but it has moved over to Valyria, another fantastic sort of pirate swashbuckler character from Robert E. Howard's works. And then Red Sonja, one of Robert E. Howard's greatest works, as well known as Conan. If you do a 6-month sub, you'll pick her up. Tony, we've got so much stuff to cover today. Let's just jump into the first segment, shall we? So what I want to do today real fast for everyone so we can get into the stuff I know everyone's waiting for is I want to tell everyone what's going to be at your local stores this month. All the releases hitting local stores in should be about a week. I believe all the models are hitting at the end of this month. So first off for War Machine and Hordes, the Hermit of Hingehold is going to be available as a single blister. He was originally released in the Oblivion box set, and that was the only way to get him, but for those of you who have been wanting a Hermit, or maybe you've been converting your own, now you can get the official model available, and I think he's below $14.99 if I'm not mistaken on the price. So real easy to pick up, paint him up, and he goes into just about every conceivable list you want to run. For you Infernal players, Nisia is going to be hitting as well as a single blister, as is Runewood. Two fantastic solos for your Infernals army. Finally, a big release that a lot of people have been waiting for, Artificer Prime Nemo and the battle mechanics are hitting stores this month. The rules are going to go up on the card database and War Room next week, a little bit prior to his release. For those of you wondering if he's going to fit into your army list or not, I know a lot of people have been wondering about the point cost. I will tell you that he did not go up in points from the end of the CID. So if you're basing your army lists for any upcoming events on what the final version of the CID was, don't worry, you're still safe. For Riot Quest, these models also all working for War Machine as well. Helga on Wheels is finally going to be releasing one of the finest Pharaoh Warlocks we've ever put out, one of the biggest Riot Quest models we've ever put out, dwarfing even Leadfoot and Treads. Chuck Dogwood is not an April Fool's joke. He's going to hit stores, mission accomplished, you could finally go buy him. And for Scorn players, something that you might be a little bit interested in, the Terrorizer is also hitting that time. Over on Monster Apocalypse, we've got 2 monsters and 2 units dropping. So first off, we've got Zor Magna coming out for all you Shadow Sun players. And then for all you UCI players, all you Ubercore players, Mecha Maxim is going to be dropping as well. And I gotta admit, of all the Mecha monsters, Mecha Maxim is my favorite looking. It just is so clean and paints up so easy. Jordan, I'll have to ask him when he comes on if we've painted one of these on stream yet or shown it, but it's just a fantastic looking model. So whether or not you're playing Ubercore as your main faction, if you're a Destroyer player at all, I do highly recommend you pick up Mecha Maxim. Over on the unit side, again for Shadow Sun, the C-Type Shinobi and the Shadow Rider blister is coming out. So you get 4 C-Type Shinobis, one of which is an elite, and the Shadow Rider. And then for you Destroyer players, there's another Ubercore International blister coming out, which is the Hover Tanks and the Ape bot. I know it's the AAA bot, but I just like to say it like I'm screaming. That's all the releases hitting stores, so if you're interested in any of these, go talk to your local store, see if you can pre-order one, and see if they can get one in for you. So, we're going to keep the show moving. We're going to go and get our first guest on, which is going to be our convention manager, John Swinkles, and John's going to talk to us about all the cool stuff coming up at some upcoming conventions. Tony, do we have drums? We have drums. Let's play some drums. I can't hear the drums either.
I'm worried that they're not real.
I want to take a second, John. So we are live. We've got the Twitch chat up right now. I don't have the Facebook chat up in front of me, but for everybody watching right now in Twitch and Facebook, hey, thanks for coming and hanging out. Thanks for being here. We will try to answer questions each segment as much as we can, but we do have a lot to cover today, especially because we're getting to Warcaster. So if we don't answer your questions, if John doesn't see one, if any of the other guests don't see one, we're not ignoring you. We have a lot to do today. So
stop.
let's get to it.
All right. Well, let's kick off with our premiere show, and one of the first places that you're going to get to be able to play Warcaster.
Yep.
And that's going to be Lock and Load, which is returning to the Bellevue Hilton.
Yeah. Where it's been the last 2 years?
Last 2 years, so this will be the 3rd year there, and layout should be much the same, but a couple of minor improvements.
Okay.
But that is going down June 26th through the 28th, and you can get your tickets, book your hotel, and of course, register for events.
I was going to say, is event registration up and running right now?
It is up and running, and you can get those all at pplockandload.com. Of particular note, as you're going through the events, you may notice that, like, okay, yeah, I've got all my War Machine stuff and some Riot Quest and some Monster Apocalypse. That's awesome. I'm going to go play those games. But what about Warcaster? Coming very, very, very soon.
So there's a chance that the event schedule evolves?
Oh, it will 100% evolve. I know I've got a return of Tyson is going to be doing another one of his Hoosier Caster events.
Sweet.
And that's going to be popping in there along with an insider on how that's going to work pretty soon. So basically, keep your eyes on that event site, and of course, keep your eyes at pplockandload.com as more events become available.
What event has caught your eye the most so far? Like, I guess has anything sold out already?
So we did have to expand the Monster Apocalypse narrative event.
Okay.
So we went from 16 players, which is what we did last year. We went up to 32 because Oz feels confident that he can run 2 pods of that at a time.
I feel confident.
And
Oz can do the
I
same.
believe him
Yeah.
for now. And then the other one that is going gangbusters is the hangout with you and some of the other folks that will be talking about what's coming up for Riot Quest and the Riot Quest hangout.
Okay. So
Both of those are just trucking right along as far as people signing up for it.
Okay, sounds good. So anything else from Lock and Load right now that you want to plug, or just to keep an eye and go to the website?
As far as Lock and Load, the best thing to do is going to be paying attention to the website, and of course, insiders that myself, Jeff Handley, Tyson's got that insider coming. I'm sure Travis will have something to say about some of the different events coming up. So basically, just stay tuned to that and privateerpress.com as more events become available and other secret stuff related to the 20th anniversary of Privateer Press and Warcaster.
Yep. And also, for those of you who've never come out to Lock and Load, you will be in the Seattle area in the summer. So it is just a great time to be here. The rumor that it always rains in Seattle is actually just a rumor. I mean, I say that it's been raining kind of nonstop right now, but the summers are beautiful. So if you want to bring the family, if you want to bring friends, there's a lot to go do. And we're in Bellevue. It's easy to just jump over to Seattle and go do a ton of stuff in both cities.
We mostly say that so Californians stop moving here.
Sure. So after, before Lock and Load, we have another big show, and one of my favorites, Adepticon, right?
Yes, Adepticon is popping up middle-ish towards end of March, the 25th through the 29th. And we are doing something a little bit different and special this year, also kind of part of the 20th anniversary of Privateer Press, is we have moved one of the P3 Grandmaster competitions to that event.
Awesome.
I believe Jordan's going to pop in and talk about that in a little bit. The other big thing is that the wonderful Travis Mark has moved the ATC, the America's Team Championship, to Adepticon. So we have much larger space and much more facilities to be able to basically make that more comfortable and more enjoyable for everyone, along with just a bucket load of War Machine events. There's Riot Quest games going on, a bunch of those throughout the week.
Narrative events.
Narrative events, Monster Apocalypse
Yeah.
is also covered. There may be some additional stuff happening that we might be able to talk about pretty soon. But yeah, that's another one to definitely keep your eyes on. And if you can attend, please do, because not just for our stuff, but Adepticon is a super fun show. And if you're into the hobby of miniatures games at all, it's a great show to hit up.
Yeah, Adepticon, like I said, it's one of my favorite shows. Like, I love Lock and Load, I love Las Vegas Open, I love Adepticon, Warfare Weekend, and Gen Con. Or, I enjoy every show I go to.
But those are the big ones.
I love those shows, and Adepticon especially is just, not only is it a great show to go attend to play games, but it's a great social show. Just to go hang out with people and see friends you haven't seen in a long time, and just chill in the hotel bar, or go out and get deep dish pizza, or do
You mean
whatever.
casserole?
To go get casserole, yeah. Last year, some people told me there was a Cajun restaurant in Chicago they had to go take me to, and I was like,
I'm in.
I don't believe you, but you have my interest peaked. And we went, and it was pretty good gumbo.
Yeah.
It wasn't half bad. So, anything else about Adepticon you want to add?
As far as everything that we've put out there so far, that's really the key stuff. We might have a little bit more to talk about in a little while,
Sure.
But for the most part, yeah, that's going to cover it. The only other thing that we have going on in March at the moment is for our retailers. We will be at Gamma, and that is March 9th through the 12th. We don't have an infographic for that one at the moment,
Sure,
but you'll definitely want to be there for some additional information involving all of our games.
Okay. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a transmutation elixir from Riot Quest, and I'm going to change you out from being in play into one of my heroes on the bench, Jordan Lamb. So you can come talk about the Grandmaster we talked about at Adepticon and let us know a little bit more.
Is it going to hurt?
No, it shouldn't.
I don't believe it.
You shouldn't believe me either. Thank you, John.
You bet.
We should have had effects coming. It should have been like, poof, and there's a cloud, and it just stays up the whole time. And you never see Jordan walk on, and then he's just here. Can we do that next time? Can we have like 90s early CGI effects though? Like,
I want 90s CGI.
what was that old show, Reboot? Yeah, I want like that. Hey, Jordan, how's it going?
It's going good. Good to see everybody here this morning.
So Jordan, for those of you who have never seen Jordan, Jordan's our studio painter and has his own show that we do every week, the Get Your Paint On. And you are the master of all things painting related here at Privateer Press.
That is correct.
So John was saying that we're moving Grandmaster to Adepticon.
Yeah, we are going to have a Grandmaster at Adepticon.
Will we have a Grandmaster at another show that you know of right now?
As far as I'm aware, Lock and Load.
Lock and Load as well? So there'll be one.
We will still have it at Lock and Load as well.
Okay, so it's not that we're not moving it away from anything. We're just having another Grandmaster.
Yeah, we're condensing it a little bit, making it so that we're also going to have, historically speaking, Adepticon is a big painting convention. And
Yeah.
There's a lot of,
With Crystal Brush and
Crystal
everything.
Brush gone.
Yeah.
We've decided to move an additional P3 Grandmaster to Adepticon. And the rules are slightly different than what they have been in the past, and they may change a little bit for Lock and Load. We don't know.
Sure.
We'll give you guys updates for that. Let's go in a little bit to the P3 Grandmaster itself. We'll talk a little bit about Display It Painted after.
Now,
But
if you don't mind, this is the Grandmaster rules for just Adepticon?
so just for Adepticon.
And they may change for Lock and Load?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So you guys will notice up here, I know it's a little hard to read, but we've got 4 categories this year at Adepticon.
Okay.
We have single model, we have group, we have massive and diorama, and we have bust.
Okay.
Historically, we've had a lot of entrants for these 4 types of categories, and we wanted to make sure that we had group represented because we want to get people to participate with their Riot Quest crews, and that's a great place for that. Single model things like our large scale Totem Huntress and some of our other bigger figures as well. And then we have diorama, which is a newer category that we haven't necessarily supported by itself in the past, but has been really popular lately. And we had a lot of entrants for it specifically at Gen Con last year.
Okay.
So we want to make sure that's all supported. For prizes, every category will have a category winner that will win 500 store credit. And the P3 grand prize will go to one of the 4 category winners, and they will get a full set of the paint range.
So we're giving out 2,000 in-store credit,
Correct.
split between 4 category winners.
Yep.
And then one person also just gets
the entire paint line.
everything for P3.
Yep.
That's a pretty
awesome.
major. That's a pretty major prize.
Yeah, it's really, 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 really good price.
So single obviously is a single model, right?
Yes.
Bust is obviously a bust.
Yep.
For the group, do you care how small or how large the group is?
Yeah, so it's going to be 3 to 8 figures of any privateer press line up to up to anything smaller than 120 mil base. So like 50 millimeter bases, sized models are the ones that we're going to be having in that group. So it could be like a group being your Warcaster and his battle group would be a group, for example.
Would somebody, if somebody did a Monster Apocalypse monster and 6 buildings, would you consider that group, or would you consider that diorama? And what should
I
somebody
would consider that more of a diorama.
You think that'd be more diorama?
Yeah,
Okay.
just because of the nature of what buildings are, and it's sort of creating a scene.
Yeah.
Right. Diorama is a category that's specifically designed to tell a story. Right. So typically, it's going to have a model interacting with another model in some sort of scene. So if you were to have like a monster fighting a monster with buildings around it, that's a great example of a diorama.
Okay.
But if you had like a monster with maybe a couple of buildings in a unit, and it kind of depends on what you enter it as, right? If it's
What your intent
very
is.
clearly something different,
Yeah.
we'll say, oh, this is more of something like this. We're going to put you in this category.
Right.
But generally speaking, when you enter, you'll submit it under what category you want, and then we'll make sure that all the entrants.
So if I enter in 6 apartment buildings with googly eyes on them and say, this is my group, you'll be fine with that.
Sure.
Now,
Sounds great.
we're talking about Adepticon, and one of my favorite things at Adepticon is the armies on parade.
Correct.
They host this thing, I think it's every Saturday, where that main thoroughfare is everyone with these enormous display boards set up, and people just go. They get so creative. People have had like moving parts and like armies like on trains, and the train flew around. There was one with like a force field last year where there were people shooting missiles at a force field and the armies on their side, and the force field was like had LEDs in it that looked like it was being impacted the whole time.
Yep.
And it's like going to Disneyland. Like you walk out and you're like, look at this stuff. It's awesome.
Yeah, the entrants are pretty insane.
So we're doing something kind of similar, right? With Display It Painted?
So they kind of allow us to have our own segment of that, which we're calling Display It Painted. So we can have our community members contribute to having their armies painted up and displayed on their nice fancy boards. We had a couple of really great ones last year.
Yep.
The last year was the first time we did this, and we had a really big turnout, which was awesome. So I'd love to see those people come back for some more, plus hopefully a whole bunch of other folks. So that'll be really exciting. But the whole idea, right, is that you're taking your painted army and you're building a display base for it. And that could just be a tray that you've built all over with terrain and things like that to kind of set a scene. It's kind of like creating a diorama, but for your whole army.
Right.
Right. So that's what it is. And we are giving away prizes. We have a first and second place prize.
Okay.
First place prize is a $100 gift certificate for our online store.
Okay.
And the second prize is a $75 gift certificate.
Can this be for any of the games? Could someone
can
do
be for any of the
a Riot Quest display it painted, a
Yep.
Monster Apocalypse display it painted?
absolutely.
Just the main thing is that it needs to be like a cohesive like army diorama.
Yeah, so it needs to have your army on it, and then it needs to have it some sort of integrated display board.
Sure.
The models don't have to be affixed to the board specifically, but it has to be built up terrain, that sort of thing. And it has to kind of like a diorama, like I was saying. It has to tell a story of some kind.
That sounds really exciting, and I'm happy that we're getting more into promoting this because it's always been one of my favorite aspects of these big shows.
Oh yeah, I love display boards. I love seeing models on terrain. It's like one of my favorite things.
At Adepticon 2012, we had a contest similar, and somebody had a Crix push cart table that also made margaritas that were like necrotite green, and it looked really good. And he could push his whole army around, and it looked like a necrotite factory. But again, it also made margaritas.
It just made margaritas.
Yeah,
That's
like
great.
it was the best. That's the only real memory I have of that show. But it was
Yeah.
my favorite
I mean,
memory.
if you were partaking of the margaritas.
I would never. So, is there anything else you want to add about?
So I know you guys can't really see these PDFs on screen particularly well, but we do have a link that we can share. It's home.privateerpress.com/events. And that's where you're going to be able to download and get the very specifics on all of these two events at Adepticon this year. And we can talk a little bit more about them tomorrow and get your paint on if you guys have questions. So feel free to tune in there and ask me any questions about them you have. But that link is where you can find the PDFs and get all the nitty-gritty details. And it has the official rules and everything on the documents as well.
So, two quick things. If this is something that excites you, also go to that link and share it to other
Yes.
people. Share it to other groups. Share it to painting groups, like paint all the minis on Facebook and stuff like that, and let people know. And then I saw a question come up on Twitch. I want to hit real fast. Well, someone says, "Will using another companies like bases or paints or something DQ you from this?" But no, you can use.
I mean, paint's definitely not. It depends on what you're talking about as far as bases.
If there was a third-party pre-made resin base that was like pre-sculpted,
No, not as far as I'm aware.
Okay.
I mean,
check later.
I'll confirm that and check later.
Yeah.
But as far as I'm aware, that specifically would not. Typically, the thing that will exclude you is if you have other non-privateer press game models and conversions and that sort of thing, or
Sure.
on the bases, that will disqualify you because it has to be all privateer press parts. If it's like bases that are just like resin bases that you find from a friend or whatever, and they're not specifically from another game, that should be fine. But,
Sure.
yeah, like I said.
Cool. Sounds perfect then.
great.
Thank you very much, Jordan.
Thanks so much for having me.
And for anyone who wants to learn more, check out his show tomorrow on Get Your Paint On at 10 a.m. Pacific. And if you have any questions you can think of, we'll be able to answer a few more of those on the show tomorrow.
Awesome. See you guys then.
Yeah.
Have a good one.
Bye, Jordan.
Bye-bye.
Oz, where are you at? It's been minutes since I saw you.
This is the short version of
Dev
this
chat?
segment with me on it today.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a break to let Getz and Mike Ryan talk, and then I'm going to come back.
We'll just be like, this is Dev Chat. Like, people tuning in right now are like, oh, it's Dev Chat. It's not a Primecast.
It's a normal show.
There's just a third mic over there for no reason.
Don't forget, just forget about that mic.
So what we wanted to go over today is I know that next week's Dev Chat is going to be Monster Apocalypse, and you've got some really cool new like model stats you want to go over?
Yeah, we're going to show off cards like we normally would do on a full Monster Apocalypse Dev Chat.
Yeah.
But before that, so that you don't have to wait a whole extra week for some sort of information about Monster Apocalypse, because we solicited it already, so the solicitation that went out for the Smashville campaign stuff and all that thing, it mentioned a map, but we didn't have that map image quite ready yet. We were like tweaking the last little bits of it.
Sure.
So it didn't go out as part of the solicitation. But we have it finalized and here now that Tony can put up on the screen. It's the Obliteration Boulevard map. So this is another city map. It's not like the Isle of Annihilation or something weird. It's just another city map. But you'll notice something definitely about it that's not like other maps.
I was going to say, walk me through the key points.
So the key points on this are the pink dots. If you're a Monster Apocalypse player, you know those are power zones. Normally maps have 6 power zones. This map has 8.
Yes.
So the thing that makes this map stand out is the amount of power that's potentially on the map. Just like Carnage Corners, the thing that stands out there is there's a triple building
triple
foundation
building,
in the
yeah.
corner, so you can get a really big throw on somebody. This one, you have more power. Also, it's not that easy to see without all the buildings on it, but there's definitely 3 lanes of monster travel on this map. So where that negative zone is in the middle, there's a road that runs through there, which is why it's called Abolition Boulevard. So to the top and bottom of that negative zone, there are buildings that when they're all on the map, monsters can't fit through there.
Unless they can jump over them or whatever.
Well, they can walk over them, but they can't stand in any of those gaps.
Yeah, right, of course.
And then there are buildings along the outer edge of the map. So there's basically a left, right, and a center lane, almost like a MOBA for your monsters. So monsters that cannot do high mobility or flight type shenanigans will be a little bit more restricted on their movement on this map. But there's a whole bunch of power potential. So that's also maybe a choice you want to make. Maybe you want to play Gorgadra and Rogzor,
Or
who can't jump around a lot, but you want to have access to all that power.
Yeah.
So you can pick this as the second player to throw into your game of Monster Apocalypse. And it is coming out in May, I believe, is what we solicited.
Yes, May would have been the most recent solicitation. Because it was that one and Temple Concord for Riot Quest both got solicited at the same time.
Yeah.
Well, that's really cool. So it'll be coming out in May. This is going to be a neoprene?
It's going to be a neoprene map. Yep.
Okay, excellent.
Yep.
So people can pre-order that if they're looking for their... Which map? So what map number is this? Do you know off the top of your head?
So there were 2 in the starter.
Yep, then there was
Calamity and Destruction Junction.
There was Island
Then
of
there was
Annihilation.
the Island.
Yes.
And then there was Carnage Corners.
Yes, this is map 5.
And so this is map 5.
Excellent. That's awesome. And these are always playable. Like if somebody goes to a Crush Hour event, they can
Oh, yeah.
throw down with these and that kind of cool
When
stuff.
you're playing Monster Apocalypse, you get to choose the map you play on if you're the second player.
Cool.
So all the maps, we haven't made a weird like league-only map yet. I'm working on one.
Oh, you are? Yes,
Yeah,
you are.
it's in. I
I know, I've seen it. I've seen it.
So yeah, that's
It's awesome.
that's a weird little thing that we're gonna try, which won't be tournament legal. But this is just another Monster Apocalypse map that you can play any game of Monster Apocalypse on.
Awesome. And so again, for people that just joined, so next week's dev chat will be Mompoc focused. And you, what specifically are we going on?
So we're gonna do the releases for next month.
Okay. And people haven't seen these rules yet.
No, they haven't.
Okay.
We did show off the Globicus model, I believe, in the last Primecast,
I think so, yeah.
but we haven't shown off
What he
the
does.
stat card for Globicus or the waste units, the Toxos and the Absorbers, or the Green Fury units, the Scavenger Vans, and the Scrapper airplane.
Okay.
Everybody has seen Sergeant Titanica. She's getting a regular release with a normal sculpt next month.
Yep.
So we'll show off her stats just in case, but she has been out since last Gen Con as her alt beer sculpt. So people have seen her rules, but we'll go over her rules and the other releases for the month of March on the next show.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you, Oz.
Yeah, I'm going
Thanks
to take
for
a break now. I'll be back.
Yeah, we'll see. I'll see you in a little bit.
Yeah.
You'll be back for the final segment where we talk about Warcaster.
We're talking about Warcaster?
We're talking about
Wow,
Warcaster.
exciting.
But before we talk about Warcaster, I want to bring in one of my favorite people and one of my bosses, Matt Getz and Mike Ryan. Matt, come sit here. Just come sit next to me.
You remember when we went to Ireland?
I do. Actually, John Webb posted something on Facebook the other day that tagged us from the dinner we had with Bob Watts and
I saw
everybody that was on there.
I saw that. That's why I brought it up.
That was one of the best times.
Hello, everyone.
It's Matt Getz.
Hello.
And Mike Ryan. Hey,
I'm the boss, right?
you're the boss, yeah.
Okay, you're all here while I officially fire Hungerford. So I didn't know that was an option. But since he called me out, sure.
Man,
But-
I'm just waiting for the riots to start up in
Can,
chat.
This is my very first Primecast. So can I do a shout out to my mom?
Yeah, of course.
Hey, hi Irma. Hungerford still doesn't know where you live.
This is
Send
the
help.
weirdest intro I've ever
Send
had
help soon.
on a
Please send help.
Primecast
Please.
ever.
Okay, I feel pretty good about that.
Hey,
my,
man.
My mom's watching and she knows about you, so we're good.
Much to everyone's delight, we won't be talking about Mike Ryan's mother. We're going to be talking about the Hinchhold Scrolls.
Like every day in the office, sure.
So the two of you are the two main writers for the Hinchhold Scrolls that have been going on, correct?
Yes, but with a caveat, because like with a lot of writing that goes on here, what we're doing is we're taking kind of the road signs that Matt Wilson put down and just sculpting them into what you're seeing on the scrolls.
Yeah. So Matt's the
He's the architect.
He's the architect, but you are the engineers.
Yeah.
Right. You're the builders. So
I picture myself as one of those guys with the street sign that has slow and stop on it.
And I'm the guy who stands by the ditch and watches everybody else work. You see
Yeah.
about 7 of those at every construction site. That's me.
And
I got
if
this
anybody's following the scroll today, blame him, not me.
Roger,
I didn't get
the Roger one today. I'm just saying, is it not awesome? I loved it.
It's all Mike.
For those of you who don't know what we're talking about, there's a new Twitter called the Hingehold Scrolls. You can find it at Hingehold Scrolls. That the way we've been delivering the fiction lately, the current, what's happening in the Iron Kingdoms right now, is this Twitter account that every day there's microfiction. What microfiction means is because there's the character limit on Twitter, it comes through in little bursts, like one after another, and you get a story every single day told from a different character's, sort of like, not necessarily a perspective, because it's all kind of what's happening on the scrolls. These are all the Hermit's prophecies, right?
Yeah.
But it focuses on a different aspect, and you've been writing these, and so if you're wondering how the Infernal War is going, Hingehold Scrolls is like your daily update of what's happening. So I guess let me start with, how do you both keep up with doing daily fiction releases? Because this is even Saturdays and Sundays, something new is coming up. So like, how often are you writing?
Oh, Mike, you want to start?
We're writing every single day, but we're not necessarily writing for today.
Of course.
We're writing weeks out in
Yeah.
advance, which gives us time to tweak characters or, kill characters and adjust the text back and forth.
Man, you were just making this before to start off with the mom, and then firing me, and then killing characters.
Trying to cover all the bases here. I'm going to quit in a few minutes. Hang on for it, folks.
So
Mike, you're just endearing yourself to the crowd.
So Mike and I are both working in a live document that I'm not going to say the specific platform, but
Obviously.
Where we can see in real time what the other person is writing. We can leave comments for one another, and since we're accessing it online, we can immediately respond to whatever those changes might be.
But you both have access to the same roadmap of where this is all going.
Yeah, Wilson shared that with us quite a while ago.
How much input did you each have on the roadmap itself? When Matt sent it to you and said, this is where things are, did you go back and say, what if we did X, Y, and Z?
A little bit, yeah. There were a few instances that I felt pretty lucky to sneak in that hadn't shown up on the roadmap because they weren't immediately relevant to the primary and principal characters of the story. One example of that is I have a soft spot for Tristan, and I wanted to make sure that we could check back in with him and sort of the situation within the Protectorate and its uncertainty with its governance, right? So I found a way to include Tristan in that roadmap and use it as really one of the most boots on the ground experiences of what's happening to the people that are suffering from the infernal conflict. Sure.
We also have the advantage that once Matt Wilson laid out the roadmap, he said, you guys run with this now. When we originally talked about it, and I'm sure that people have noticed this over and over again, we thought there'd be 2 or 3 segments per day, just a few. Yeah. And, I think we had a day where there was 20. Yeah. It's not, the Iron Kingdoms is huge, so it's not going to be very self-contained, and trying to get all these characters in motion so that everybody who's following their favorite character gets a fix is challenging.
Yeah. It's a lot, because if this were a comic book, think how many comic books you would have to write to cover all the characters of the Iron Kingdoms. Yeah. Now, you mentioned Tristan. Do each of you, is that your favorite thing you've done for the Hingehold? Do each of you have a favorite story? I'll even say a favorite story that has come out so far, because we don't want to spoil anything that's happening. Do one come to mind?
Yeah, Ashlyn. I've been writing all the Ashlyn segments, and the climactic moment where she and the Queen were prepared to die while Infernals are pounding on the door was my favorite moment, because at the time I wrote it, I wasn't sure, do I actually get to kill these 2 characters or not?
Now, was there a follow-up to that part? 'Cause I think
there was. Everybody knows now that that Kador was at the door.
But not in the typical Kador at the door sense.
Not the way you expect to see them, and now there's an alliance there that no one really likes, I'm sure.
What about you? Any particularly favorite moment that's happened thus far?
Do you want the real answer, or do you want the troll answer?
Ooh, do the troll answer.
Want
do the troll
both.
answer.
Okay.
Do the troll.
Give me the troll answer first.
Okay, so as far as troll answers go, my favorite moment was in I think it was the third segment from the Scorn POV.
Was this the Morgul waited?
Morgul waited. I mean, I loved it. But I loved it after the fact because when that was being written, I didn't know about the 5-minute delay. So it was written as just trying to inject that dramatic pause. And I had no idea how freaking dramatic that pause would be to the people reading.
So for those of you that keep up with the scrolls that happens live, say that a story comes out and it's done in 7 tweets. There's a 5-minute delay between each one. So what he's referring to is the stuff was happening, then you had a 5-minute delay, then the tweet came out and it was just the words, Morgul waited.
Yeah.
And then 5 more minutes to the follow-up tweet of what was going on. And during that 10-minute span right there, people lost their damn minds.
It was not a deliberate attempt to troll people. I'll say that about it. I didn't mean to, but I appreciate that it happened after the fact.
Okay. What's your real answer? What's your real favorite, though?
Oh, wow. There are a lot of moments that I really genuinely enjoyed writing.
Okay.
A lot of characters that we haven't gotten to see very often, and I wanted to have a little bit of shine on in the stories. But from a writing perspective, I think the one that I liked writing the most was after Nemo went through the gate.
Sure. Which is the one that just came out yesterday, right?
Yeah, exactly. I wrote it a little while ago, but there were some challenges there, right? Like, you know what a star field looks like. I know what a star field looks like. We've seen photos from telescopes and stuff, like Hubble and whatnot. But trying to get into the mindset of somebody who had only been limited to like the observatories of the IK technological level, and what that experience of stepping into the void and seeing the entirety of a galaxy laid out in front of you.
This brings up a good question for both of you. You're talking about trying to describe something so grandiose, but you are limited to this microfiction style where you have limited words.
Yeah.
How challenging is it to write in this manner?
Very.
Okay.
Some of the segments run 400 characters. 400 characters. And we have to make the decision of, are we going to chop this into 2 parts? How much of this is really important? What it leads to is so much tighter writing and climactic endings for segments that it's got a pace. It's fast.
Yeah.
We don't spend a lot of time on descriptive text. Years and years ago, I read some of the rules of writing by a guy named Elmore Leonard, who's he's now passed, but he wrote a lot of very intense crime fiction. And one of his 10 rules of writing was, you know those long segments that you write that you really never read when you read a book? Don't write those. So we are writing in such brevity that every word and every character becomes vital. And so we're sometimes going and taking out the word "the" just because it's breaking the rhythm and I need 3 spaces.
Got it.
Yeah. It's a challenge for me because, unlike Mike, I don't come from a narrative writing background. I come from role-playing game writing,
Right.
which is a lot more essay-driven.
Yes.
And I remember a conversation that you and I had quite a while ago where you were talking about Elmore Leonard's writing and how dialogue must drive narrative fiction because that's what people can roll over, and even just subconsciously they'll flow through it and they'll get more excited to pick it up. I don't have a lot of familiarity with writing dialogue, or like historically haven't, so forcing myself to take on that mindset more often was one of the early challenges of getting into not just writing the Henschel Scroll, but writing fiction in general, but very applicable to this format.
And I would think that from the response we've gotten from everybody, that you guys have both nailed it. People really love the Henschel Scrolls.
Well, thank you for saying so.
They do. I mean, we
Glad to
see
hear
people
that.
every day talking about the spoilers and how cool they are. So,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of like holy crap moments. Like everyone's like, oh, what happens? And you don't hear about somebody for a while, right?
Yeah.
So I have 2 questions left for you. So one is about the Henschel, the narrative sort of overarching construct of the Henschel Scrolls, which is these are the prophecy scrolls from the Hermit of Henschel, right?
Right.
Is he a reliable narrator, or is there a chance that some of these stories aren't true?
I would definitely lean toward the first.
So would I.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like
So would I.
he's interpreting what this prophetic document says, right? And he might not have everything 100% right. And it gives us a lot of liberty, honestly. Like, there are some big moments coming for a few characters fairly soon that I haven't necessarily approached Wilson about getting the authority for.
We're just gonna do it.
If you kill Barnabas,
He's watching right now. We're
Don't
just
do it.
gonna do it.
don't you kill Barnabas?
Don't challenge me, Hungerford.
I know, but don't like.
Barnabas
It's
is
the
dead by
only
Tuesday.
thing I have. It's the only nugget of joy. Don't take it from me.
I mean, you have Helga on wheels. But no, so that doesn't mean that the things we write regarding the fates of certain characters isn't canon. It means that it might not be canon.
Okay.
It leaves just enough uncertainty that we're not constantly bothering Matt saying, can we do this? Can we do this? Can we do this?
Yeah.
It allows us that liberty to say, guess what? Today we're going to kill Mad Hammer. And maybe he's dead. Maybe he's not.
Nice, just a little throw out. So that leads me to my final question for the two of you.
Okay.
Which is that there's one part that happened during the Ashland scenes, I believe, where someone mentioned Cain, and I think they said, "I heard that Cain," and then they got cut off, and everyone was going crazy, wanting to know what happened to Cain. So, what happened to Cain?
It's been great talking
seeing
to
you,
you.
Hungerford. Great. Glad Matt Getz was here. You're still fired. Okay.
I also need you. I just need you.
Is it time for my other segment?
It is.
Okay.
You have to rehire me first.
Well, I'm not in charge of that.
You're hired.
Oh, I got hired. Okay, I'm good.
Sure.
All right. So it's time.
So the internet is now going to explode with "it's about time" memes. Is that what's going to happen?
I think it's about.
Just the Facebook page is just covered in memes where there's some sort of guy in a power suit with a cigar saying something about time.
No.
I'm sure they're there.
So let's go ahead and before we get our first look, what we're going to do is we're going to show you some art. We'll give you your first look at what Warcaster looks like. But I want to kind of set the scene. I want people to understand what a little bit of the setting of Warcaster is, so that some of what you're going to see makes sense. So here's sort of the basics, and you'll be able to read this in much more detail and written by people that write better than I speak very soon. But the idea is that thousands of years ago, in sort of myths and legends, the idea is that humanity was confined to a single world. There was some world they were on.
Yeah.
And some unstoppable horror showed up after them. So a great many of them fled.
Yeah.
They fled through a gateway and they spread out to the stars. They went to another galaxy.
Yeah.
So as they arrived, they found all these other inhabitable worlds. They found that the world they once knew was and they thought that was everything there was.
Yeah.
There were all these other places they could live. And they found that this world, these worlds and this entire galaxy was permeated by this energy called arcanescence.
Yeah.
Arcanescence was just everywhere. And arcanescence grew in these great big crystals, and it sort of dissolved into these geysers of energy, and they could tap into this energy and they could use it. And the energy became sort of the foundation of what they called neo-machanika. Sort of science magic, if you will.
Yeah.
But more just science, the use of arcanescence. Through it, they were able to do things like power up the weapons of war they used. They were able to create the G-forces to create ships that could fly. But they weren't able to create ships that could fly interstellar. They couldn't cross the void between worlds in just like a spaceship or anything like that.
Yeah.
The main travel between worlds, they found that these gateways existed.
Yeah, they got to a whole bunch of places that were empty, but looked like someone had lived there.
Yes. And the main thing they left behind were these great gateways. And these gateways, when powered with the arcanescence, or sometimes just on their own would open, you would walk through a gateway when it was on, and you would just appear on another world. So they began mapping out sort of the routes of the worlds through these gateways. And that's how they traveled from world to world. And these worlds were completely different. They had their own natural resources, minerals and things. But arcanescence was the core driving resource of the entire galaxy.
It's like the lifeblood of the galaxy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is the ultimate resource. It's your gasoline, oil, electricity,
Yeah.
all mixed into one. It powers everything.
Yeah, and the most important thing about those gates is they're not completely controllable.
No.
And they're on cycles. Some of them rotate between places they open to. Some of them don't open but once a year.
Yes.
Some of them are open almost all the time. So controlling access to the gates and mapping out exactly when a gate here might go to there or whatever was a
needed-
big part of that exploration
It was almost like
process.
old naval trade routes. You had
Yeah.
to know the safe way to go.
Yeah.
Now, they did create mini void gates. These are ones that in their warfare, what they could do is they had these great ships. They would fly over the battlefield and they could deploy these void gates. And what they did is their soldiers stayed on the ship. And this allowed them to basically teleport soldiers from the
Yeah.
ship down to the battlefield. That sort of short range gating was fine. It was these big gates between worlds that were the more unpredictable
Yeah.
ones. So thousands of years go by. And of course, what does humanity do? They spread to every world. They start fighting with each other.
They get a little greedy.
Huge empires, huge world-spanning empires are created. But Arcanescence starts to get drained.
Yeah.
It gets drained more and more, and it is the resource that is making everything work.
Yeah.
So when the penultimate resource starts to run out, what do?
You have a war?
You go to war with everyone.
Yeah.
During this, a breed of soldier that is above any other breed of soldier has risen. The Warcaster. Warcasters are capable of manipulating Arcanescence, also just called Arc for short.
Yeah.
They can manipulate it into gates to be able to teleport soldiers from their ships. They're able to put it into the weapons and armor of soldiers or warjacks to power them up and make them stronger. Or they're able to manifest Arcanescence into like great and powerful ciphers. Do things like make gouts of flame appear and just roast people. Or almost like old school magic effects on people.
Yeah, the people that live in this galaxy drew from their myths and legends, and that's where they came up with the name Warcaster.
Exactly.
Because those were the heroes of the past that had saved their people from that dying world.
Yes.
So yeah.
So in the game of Warcaster, before we show the first piece of art, you, the player, are the Warcaster.
Yeah.
You're not a model, you're not a pawn on a table, you are the caster. You are a person with immeasurable power inside a giant ship, looking down at the battlefield and manipulating all the pieces, almost like they were game pieces on a game table of some kind.
Almost.
You are flowing the Arcanescence between yourself, empowering the abilities that you can bestow on others, or charging up people's individual weapons and armor so that they become more powerful, or maybe flowing them into void gates that you decide where they go on the table turn to turn, and then you use that Arcanescence to then summon more soldiers from your ship directly onto the battlefield.
Yeah. All of your warriors down there have little portable gates they can toss out that will expand if you feed your arc into them.
So as you play, you always have a limited amount of this Arcanescence as a resource in the game. It never goes away. It never gets spent forever. Instead, it flows like a circuit board between your ship, your gates, and your army, empowering different things. But I think it's finally time, now that people have the stage set.
You think?
Let's take a look at the first piece of art, the first piece of a battle shot of Warcaster, and let you see what this game is going to look like.
Are we going to full screen this, or are we going to...
There we
did.
go.
Okay, so you can't even see us anymore.
So here we see an opening battle between the Iron Star Alliance and the Marcher Worlds, which we're going to talk a bit more about here in a second. So here we see soldiers all armed to the teeth with neo-machanika weapons and armor, as well as some warjacks. We see the ships in the sky above, and they are just fighting over. This could be a city that was on part of a populated planet, or it could be one of the planets they've gone out to, where they're finding new arc geysers to try and harvest.
Yeah, and the guys in the background are coming out of a void gate.
Yeah, and we see a void gate in the back that is crackling with energy that the Warcaster controlling those forces has opened a gate and basically teleported these troops from their command ship down to the battlefield. In fact, Tony, let's bring up a shot, a close-up shot of a gate. And here we see a Marcher Worlds hunter and another nearby light warjack coming out of one of these mini void gates that the Warcaster is summoning from the ship down to the battlefield. Now, I've used the words Iron Star Alliance and Marcher Worlds a couple times real quick.
Yeah.
So two of the factions we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
are going to have starter box products. And these are the Marcher Worlds and the Iron Star Alliance. So Tony, before we show any art, I just want to real quick explain what those are. The Iron Star Alliance is sort of the giant corporate empire. It is the most secure and powerful collection of worlds and corporations and nations all working together in one giant alliance.
It's the structured civilization
Yes.
of this galaxy.
However, to keep things safe, they are a bit draconian in how they treat people.
They're a little bit. They're a
So-
little bit rough.
To join the alliance is to give yourself to, not, I won't want to say oppression, but their rules.
They are strict about some of the ways that they enforce life.
You are going to belong to their policies to keep you safe and for a more secure and prosperous alliance. The Marcher Worlds are those that have chosen to flee to the fringes of the known galaxy, who do not want to be part of the alliance. They want to instead exist on their own. They want to live free.
Yeah.
So they don't have access to the great resources of the alliance. They're sort of they're scavengers. They're scraping by with what they got. But that doesn't mean that they're just fighting with wrenches and pistols.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of technology they have access to. And more importantly, they're out on the fringes where a lot of these worlds that haven't been fully explored are.
Yeah.
So they're getting a lot of the unknown arc geysers and stuff like
Or
that.
they might also just be worlds that the gate travel to them is much more complicated.
Exactly.
And to talk about vocabulary for a second, because I've seen people inside the building already kind of confused about this word. If you're a fan of the Iron Kingdoms, you know the Bloodstone marches exist.
Yeah.
A march is a territory on the outer edge of something. So these are the Marcher worlds, which means they're not the core worlds of the galaxy. They're the edges, and that's what. It doesn't mean that they walk around in rank and file stomping.
No.
It means that they are the people on the edge of society.
Tony, go ahead and bring up a look at a look at the Alliance. So here we see some Alliance soldiers fighting together, and the figure you see in the back is the Warcaster. That's you.
That's you.
That's you plugged into the giant sort of central command console called the rack.
Yeah.
That you are inside your ship. In there, you are indestructible. Nobody can get to you. There is no caster kill because you're inside the most secure area of a battleship above the battlefield, controlling everything. And when you're plugged into this thing, you're just seeing the battlefield, like I said, play out almost like a giant game.
Almost like the narrative and the physical activity of the game are just being smashed together perfectly.
Let's go ahead and move on, and let's take a look at the Marcher World's opening art. Here we see they're not in this nice, like, sort of command deck. They're out there on the fringes, and we see their Warcaster also looking down from the sky. And you can see, ragtag is not the right word for the Marcher Worlds, but they're definitely not as clean and sort of regimented as the Iron Star Alliance.
They have the same kind of high-tech stuff. It's just a little bit different and a little bit less refined. And they tend to wear a lot of cloaks.
So this is the first two factions, and these are the ones we're talking about today. There will be more stuff to talk about later, but these are the ones we want to talk about today. But these have been art. It is time to show you all some models. And what we're going to show you before Tony brings up the first one, there's going to be a starter set for the Iron Star Alliance.
Yeah, which is what those two images were. Those were the starter box covers, basically.
Yeah, there's going to be a starter set for the Marcher Worlds. We're going to show you the models in those sets. So let's go ahead and bring up, I think the one people have been wanting to see the most. Let's show some Warjacks.
Yeah.
So on the right is a Marcher World Light Warjack. On the left is an Iron Star Alliance Light Warjack. Warjacks in this game are customizable. You pick their Cortex, which has different abilities, and they have different hard points on them that you can customize with different weapons. So the left arm, right arm, and shoulder weapons on each of these Warjacks are just the configuration that we built and painted them as. In the starter box, you will have more options than just this specific configuration.
Yeah, and not every Warjack is going to be arm, shoulder. There's going to be different combos of different sizes and numbers of hard points and styles of faction choices and those kind of things.
Yep. So on the left, we have the Firebrand Iron Star Alliance Warjack.
Yeah.
This has got the Reflex Cortex. It's got the Repulsion Shield.
Yeah.
It's got a Fusion Glaive, and on its shoulder, it's got a Harbinger Cannon, is the specific build out of this one.
Yeah.
Over on the right is the Marcher World's Dusk Wolf Light Warjack. It's got a rail rifle a rail gun.
Yeah, that shoulder's the rail gun.
The shoulder's the railgun up top. It's got a battle rifle in its right hand, and it's got a ripper, which is actually a more melee-centric.
Yeah, it's got a chainsaw blade thing that you can see if you look closer at that image.
And again, when you buy your starter, you won't get both of these jacks. You'll choose either your Alliance starter or your Marcher Worlds starter. But the jack you get in your starter box does not have to be built like this. You can customize not only the Cortex, which is usually represented by a different head on the jack, but then the weapon configuration of it.
Yeah. And there's a whole point system to what choices you can make, and we'll get more into that as we talk more and more about Warcaster, but not today.
Let's look at some of the other models you'll get. So first off, I want to bring up, this is going to be the Marcher World Hunter. So in Warcaster, everything is considered a unit, and there are 3 types of units.
Yep.
There are warjacks, there are solos, and there are squads. Squads are typically 3 models. Solos are a single model, and warjacks are a single model. So what we're looking at here is a Marcher Worlds solo called the Hunter.
Yeah.
And he is a sniper. He just has very, very long range. And if the Warcaster has arc in that gun, powering that gun up, it shoots further and it shoots harder. It deals more damage.
And that's one of the changes. If you are coming into this game having played War Machine, the big difference conceptually in the narrative is that you as the Warcaster aren't just making the Warjacks better with giving them energy. Yeah. You can move that energy to everything because everybody is using neo-machanika, and when it has Arcanessus in it, it's better.
It's a circuit board.
Yeah. So this model is normally good as a sniper, and then putting arc into that gun, which is one of the things you can do during your turn, makes that gun better.
Yep. Tony, let's go ahead and bring up the next image we want to show. And so this is a key kind of model here. This is the Marcher Worlds Coalition Weaver. So Weavers are a certain type of solo that are able to channel ciphers from the ship, from the caster, into the battlefield. And so when the caster, your Warcaster, is reserving some of the Arcanescence for themselves to empower their own abilities, say that they want to shoot a gout of flame out on the battlefield. That actually will come channeling down through the Weaver. They are capable of channeling the direct energy from the Warcaster into more destructive powers. Moving on from there, that's another solo that would be in the starter box. This is what an infantry squad looks like. This is the Marcher Worlds Ranger Fire Team squad. And as you see, it is 3 models. All 3 models are different sculpts, and almost all squads you're going to see in the game are going to be about this size. And here we see sort of your standard front line. Again, they have that semi-ragtag look to them. Definitely when we get to the Alliance stuff, you'll see how much more cleaner the Alliance look is. But these are just they've got melee attacks, they've got range attacks. Almost everything in this game has a gun.
Yeah, it's a very gun-centric game. You're not going to see, especially at the beginning like this, you're not going to see melee units that are focused entirely on melee.
There's a few, but
that stuff we'll explore the entire setting and the way combat works in general. But at the launch, guns are very prevalent. Even like we saw that Warjack that had a shield and a sword equivalent, it had a cannon on its shoulder. So it was built to be a melee jack, but it could still shoot stuff if it needed to.
The Ranger Fire Team are sort of your standard soldiers of the Marcher World. So let's get into some Alliance stuff so you can kind of see the difference. So first off, one of the first solos we want to show here is the Paladin Commander. So some of the main troops of the Iron Star Alliance are the Paladin Enforcers. And here we see one of their commanders. It's a solo. He's got the shield up, so his armor is actually pretty high. He has... You don't necessarily see, like, he might look like he's melee only, but he does have a ranged attack. He is capable of shooting, and of course he is quite capable in melee as well. But he actually is a more, not only can kill stuff, but he has support for the main squad as well, making them better, making them be able to activate multiple times, because Warcaster is an alternating activation game, where one player activates and takes their turn, the next player takes their turn, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Every turn, you're able to manipulate your circuit board of arc a little bit. Every turn, you're able to put down new gates and summon new models if you have any. And the back and forth activation mechanic allows for some really cool support pieces. So this is a combat support piece for the Iron Star Alliance. Next up is their Weaver. We talked about Weavers earlier, and you can see just immediately how different the Iron Star Alliance looks from the Marcher Worlds in comparison.
You don't see a lot of cabling and that kind of stuff on them because their tech is more refined.
And so let's move to their squad. This is going to be sort of their main frontline troop unit. This is going to be the Paladin Enforcers, who with the bayonets affixed on their guns are capable of melee or ranged. In fact, one of their rules is when they are charged, when you charge the unit with arc, normally you either get to shoot or make the melee attack, but when they're charged with arc, they can make both in one turn. Their armor and their speed gets supercharged. They can move faster. They can think faster. They've got better reflexes, and so they can attack more times if you've decided to put one of your limited amount of arc into this unit. So let's take a quick look at some of the group shots that we'll have. So this is going to be the Marcher Worlds, I believe, is first. And this is what the Marcher Worlds starter box looks like. Now, again, that jack is fully customizable. This is just the build we did for this box. But in it, you're going to get that Hunter Solo, you're going to get the Coalition Weaver, you're going to get the Ranger Fire Team Squad, and you're going to get a Dusk Wolf Light Warjack, however you decide to build it. These models will be made out of resin and metal. I don't believe that they are hard plastic or anything like that. And let's take a look at the Iron Star Alliance starter box, which is going to be a Firebrand. Again, this is just our specific build for this paint job. The Weaver, the Iron Star Alliance Weaver. And then we have the Paladin Commander and then a unit of Paladin Enforcers as well. I think we have a shot of them facing off head to head. And one of the cool things you'll notice in the background is that that's all new terrain. Danny has been hard at work building new terrain tables just for Warcaster for the events that we go to, because it's going to look so absolutely different. So
well, and also it's going to have environments that the Iron Kingdoms doesn't necessarily have because it's on 1,000 worlds out in space. We can do crazier, more esoteric planets than just fantasy mountains or rivers or whatever.
One of my favorite things has been playing games where we played with like catwalks and stuff like that, where I used a cipher that I channeled through one of my weavers to hit one of your soldiers and send them flying off a catwalk. You had just walked up the staircase to get to the top of it. And you had a sniper up there you were using to pop shots down at my guys that were behind bunkers. But with this game, because it takes place on so many different worlds, for your terrain, the terrain rules have been kept very simple. So that whatever piece of terrain you're using, you can say it fits into one of these categories, and this is what it does. I would say it's less terrain rules by far than War Machine, personally.
It's got a definitely smaller impact footprint than some of the War Machine terrain rules.
And the idea is, as a player, build the world you want to build, and then you will just determine, what does this iceberg count as? What does this building count as? What does this old bunker, what do these sandbags count as? What does this old wrecked gate count as? Whatever you want, right? Get creative. Now, earlier when John was on, we were talking about something special at Adepticon. And at Adepticon, we are going to have an exclusive sculpt model.
Move my mic out of the way so I can.
We're going to have an alternate sculpt Coalition Weaver for the Marcher Worlds. And this is Stu Spengler, our employee here. This is his own paint job. He's been painting up his own force.
Yeah, so this is an alt scheme of what the models will look like. And it's an alternate no helmet. She's got her helmet attached to her belt there.
Yeah. But we see that she's taken her helmet off, and you can see
she's pointing her arc relay right at you.
Yep. Thanks for the wiggle there, Oz.
Yeah.
So this model will be available at Adepticon as an exclusive sculpt. So if you want your chance to paint your first Warcaster model, regardless if you're thinking about picking up the Marcher Worlds or not, you will be able to come get this at Adepticon. Now, one of the big questions is, when's it coming out?
Yeah, when is it coming out?
How is it coming out?
Where is it coming out?
Where is it coming out?
Who is it coming out?
Warcaster is going to be kickstarted, and the Kickstarter is starting very soon.
Very soon. No specifics on a date because we're still finalizing things and lining everything up, and we don't want to promise a specific date if we would have to miss it because of some small thing. But very soon. We're
going to be releasing more and more information about the game, about the Kickstarter, about additional factions, more models, more everything. And you can find all of that on a website that should be live. It just went live during this show at warcaster.com.
Let me check.
The most important thing I want to impart on everyone is if you go, are you checking in Warcaster?
I'm checking that. Keep talking.
If you go to warcaster.com, there is a newsletter you can sign up for at the top. And that newsletter will make sure that every new bit of information that goes out, including news about the Kickstarter that's coming very, very soon for Warcaster, that you get. So I recommend everyone, as soon as this stream ends, which we're very near the end, go to warcaster.com, check out the page, read more about the history, see more art that we didn't show
Yeah,
today.
there's art on here that we did not show today.
Sign up for the newsletter and check warcaster.com daily for more news as it comes out so that you don't miss anything. And obviously, we'll be talking about Warcaster for some time to come.
Yep.
So with that, now that the cat's out of the bag, I know everyone wants to rush over the website, so we're going to go ahead, put the show to an end.
Yep. But a reminder, there were a lot of questions in the chat about how the game functions. We are going to go through the basics of the game next Tuesday on a live stream with those models you just saw. Basically, the starter boxes, we're not going to play a real game probably because there's going to be a lot of interruptions for questions and comments and stuff like that. But we're going to show you the basics of how the game plays.
Yes.
In a little bit less than a week.
Yeah, so
So
we're
hold all your questions about dice and model choices and all that kind of stuff until next Tuesday.
Yeah, we'll be able to get into that. So
Yeah.
I want to thank John. I want to thank Jordan. I definitely want to thank Matt Getz for making the drive out here.
Yeah.
For coming on and talking about the Henchhold Scrolls. We love Matt, and it was great to have him on. Thanks for Mike for getting on for the first time ever.
Yeah.
Hey, Oz.
Hey.
Thank you, Oz. And thanks, everybody, for joining us. We will catch you next time. See you later, everyone. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Ooh, that was